Čete, určitě znáte Logana Paula, Logan Paul, takzvaný Oh, I think there's someone hanging there. Tento člověk a Coffeezilla, nebo já vám to pustím, aby jako jste chápali, abyste měli jakože 100% understanding, oč tu běží.
I really hate to say this. I think there's someone hanging right there.
No, prostě tenhle týpek plus scammer, už dělal kámo tak snad 3 kryptoskemy, potom co udělal jeho infamous CryptoZoo, nebo co to bylo, kde prostě prodával, co to bylo, prostě digitální vajíčka nějakých mimozemšťanů, nebo co to bylo, teda zoo, nevím, to je jedno, mě to nezajímá, tak byl to scam, nikomu nevrátil peníze, ten projekt nikdy neudělal, unlock. Coffeezilla ho vyhlásil, řekl, že jsi cringe, tady, proto a proto, pinpointnul fakt dobré pointy a Logan Paul ho potom prostě poslal k soudu. Je to cringe, jdem se to kouknout, video se jmenuje Logan Paul's crashing out on Coffeezilla od Jamary 2 dny zpátky, let's go!
So last weekend I actually took a trip to Vegas with my family. We actually went out there to
Soračik, titulky, tady je máte.
celebrate my uncle's birthday because he had passed this age threshold where a lot of men in my family have historically passed away. So shout out to my Uncle Noonie for breaking that curse. And so after the first...
Čete W do chatu, vím, že tohle není Kajovo stream, ale pošlete tam W pro tady Anka.
Basically, everyone was losing their ass in that casino. It didn't matter if you were playing the slots, the tables. My parlay was busting on like the first team. Pause. I mean, I think at that point I was already down like $800. And so then it was like, well, what
Crazy.
did me and my uncle do besides head to the sports book and get drunk off the drink tickets? And so we're chilling there. We've already ordered like 5 whiskey straights. It was his idea, okay? I was like, God damn. And I make the stupid decision to actually check my email on vacation. This is something that historically never works out well for me. It's almost like every time I decide to go away from my home, from these 4 sacred walls, YouTube just sends me a email. Not saying that I ever really want to get...
Já s tímhle totálně můžu stotožnit. YouTube kámo posílá ty nejvíc crazy věci občas. Kdykoliv prostě jedu třeba do Chorvatska, napíše, hele bro, máš copyright strike. Chápeš? Nechápu. Insane.
Like that, but it's much easier to handle that type of thing if I am home. Now either way, this email is titled Privacy Complaint. I've gotten a couple of these before in the past, usually when I had made a video about someone who was not necessarily a public figure, and they essentially wanted to be pulled from my channel for whatever reason. And so in these types of emails, they have a link to the video that the privacy complaint is about, and then they actually show you the actual timestamps where the privacy complaint apparently occurred.
Ok, tak o tom slyším teď poprvé, že se vůbec děje. Dobře.
Click into the video and I see that it's actually my most recent upload at that time, my recent coverage of the
Logan Paul
versus Coffeezilla saga. And
okay.
I see that, I'm like, oh man, Logan's on some shit. And I check the timestamps and apparently Logan, or maybe his legal team, had some sort of issue with me including those leaked text messages in that video.
Note that privacy complaints can only be made by you if the content is specifically about you. There are only a few exceptions to this.
No, klasika, Logan Paul, kámo, ubrečené děcko, klasik.
Violation involves someone you're legally authorized to represent.
And you guys have to keep in mind, those leaked messages were from publicly available court documents. Like
Okay, takže Logan Paul,
on your computer or phone at the second. Now either way, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna keep having a good time. I'll worry about this shit later. Now when later...
Dobře, můžete přestat dělat reference, kámo, na japonský les? Už stačilo, dobře? Já vám to neměl ukazovat. Už počilujte.
Did come around at like 2 or 3 in the morning, which is like 4 o'clock a.m. at Texas time. I was tired as shit, so I went on the little YouTube tool. I tried to blur out some of the text messages. I cut some of the other stuff out. And I figured, okay, hopefully...
Kámo, YouTube tool je taková hajzlovina. Je to pomalé, je to špatný, je to fakt zlo, je to zlo. Jestli existuje peklo, tak je to YouTube Studio, fakt.
Suffices, like I don't really want to worry about this shit. Well then the next day I actually received a follow-up email from YouTube that basically said, hey, the changes that you made, they were not sufficient enough. We're going to give you another chance to fix this, which I'm very thankful for, even though I don't really think I'm in the wrong. And so then I'm just like, screw it, I know how wonky YouTube can be with their policies. I just go to the chopping block and just start splicing that shit up. I mean, at this point, that video represents like a mutilated body. And so then I do enjoy the rest of
Okay.
my time in Vegas. But when I got back home a couple of days ago, I did
A
get
další
more
boom.
curious about this privacy complaint.
Okay,
And
tak
honestly,
ne.
guys, I thought it was some bullshit. And upon further inspection and looking into other people who had made videos on this topic, it appears that this had been done in like a grand sweeping fashion. As I noticed, several other commentary channels like Some Ordinary Gamers, Kavos, they all had to edit their videos as well, meaning I likely thought they received the same privacy complaint. And like I said earlier, these
Logan Paul? Logan Paul prostě.
complaints
Cringeák.
come either directly from the person or their legal team who feels their privacy is being violated. And it's funny because in the regulations for filing a privacy complaint, YouTube does take into consideration whether something is newsworthy, whether someone is a public figure, or whether the information you shared in your video was already available to the general public.
Note that when it comes to determining if content should be removed for privacy
Dobře, bro, ale OK, chápu. Ty jo, dobře, OK. Je tam jako ten Coffeezilla mě zajímal spíš.
I did not dox him. And like I said, with him being a public figure, all that other shit really does not matter. I mean, honestly, I was pretty much just reading the court documents verbatim and then giving my opinion on what they were saying. And obviously, within those court documents, there was a whole lot of other stuff that had been redacted. So I would think, hey, like, if that stuff wasn't cool to go out to the public, it would have been redacted as well. And the whole time, I'm really just thinking, like, why? What's the point? It's kind of the same way I felt about the lawsuit against Coffeezilla. Like, you were just extending this whole situation. At least that's what I thought in my head. But now after reading these newly filed court documents that I'm about to show you guys,
důležité říct, Coffeezilla a Logan Paul se soudí. Teď aktuálně se soudí. Logan Paul tam říkal nějaký cringe ohledně toho, nevím jestli to leaked nebo ne, jestli to říkal publicly, ale psal tam něco typu, že je mi to jedno, kámo, jediné, co já chci, je, aby prostě Coffeezilla trpěl a tak. A je to cringe, to je prostě cringe. Kdo neví, tak Coffeezilla je takový jakoby krypto, já vám to ukážu. Takový kryptodetektiv, prostě když někdo udělá nějakou šlamastiku, někdo se nachomítne prostě nějakým kryptoskému, tak přijde Coffeezilla, udělá na něj jakoby prostě videjko, že hej bro, tady jsem udělal malou investigaturu, třeba to dělal o Counter Strikeu, tady Mr. Beast, Andrew Tate, Hacktua, tady určitě někde, že taky najde ještě, já nevím kde pak je Hacktua? Nevidím teď Hacktu, ale určitě to bylo, možná na jiném kanále. No, takže tak, takže soudí se prostě, no.
I do think we might finally have some clarity as to why Logan has been on this rampage.
Oh,
As it appears
okay.
that Logan is really paranoid about something that either has come out or will come out in the future to the public during the discovery process. Alright guys, so we have 3 different court
Tak proč se tím soudí, kámo, to je tak insane.
documents we will be looking at today. The first one is Logan's request to preserve confidentiality, where Logan is basically going to the judge and
Hacktua dostalo copyright od ní. Je to možný, kámo. A hlavně, já nevím, jestli jsem to už ukazoval, ale to mi přijde hrozně wild. Pamatujete si na Hailey Welch, Hacktua? Víte, že se vrátila po svých 3 měsících, kámo, klidu? Takže, koukněte. To je její kanál Talk2. Jediné, co mohla prostě dělat, je prostě dělat tyhle ty Talk2 cringe podcasty a byl by v pohodě. Nicméně. Vidíte ty views, 200, 500, tady 3 miliony skoro, jako v pohodě views, ne? Takže average tak 340 tisíc. A teď, co bude tohle? Tady 5 měsíců zpátky 800 tisíc skoro a měsíc zpátky tam si vzala KSI jako hosta. KSI, chápete? KSI. No, kámo, a tady ani ne 100 tisíc, 25, 22, 15, 11, to je fakt crazy, kámo. No, prostě, jakoby, to mi přijde fakt insane, jak velký tohle je fall-off, ale zajímalo by mě, jestli zkusí nějaký jako stunt ještě udělat, nebo se prostě bude dál dělat tyhle ty podcastíky, uvidíme.
hey, I don't want these pieces of evidence found during discovery to get out to the general public, likely because they do not paint him in a very good light. I feel like he saw those text messages.
Už se sednul. Už chilluje.
Up his sleeve. Maybe that was redacted from the public version.
Stunt jako Káně. Hele, říkejte si, co chcete. Ty lyrics jsou trošku divný, ale kámo, ty songy jsou swag. Ty songy fakt jako zní až moc dobře na to, o čem sakra jsou.
Of that document that's even more damning than
Ale jo, stunt jako Káně.
themselves. We also have Coffeezilla's response to that motion to preserve confidentiality, where his legal team basically says that Logan is a huge hypocrite desperately trying to control the narrative. And then we also have a more overall response from Logan where he addresses the text messages, the narrative that he
Že ty jsi skoupil ten jeho merch s tím no samozřejmě. Ale ještě nepřišel, kámo, už to 2 měsíce, nepřišel ještě.
is trying to ruin Coffee's life with this lawsuit, and also saying that he does not want his case with Coffee transferred to this other class action lawsuit he is currently dealing with over CryptoZoo. So basically, when this all started, the two parties had apparently agreed to some sort of confidentiality agreement, as both had likely been requesting documents, text message exchanges, and other
OK, to prostě znamená, že když bude nějaká taková jakoby detektivní práce z obou stran a najdou si nějaký úplně super kámo tajný dokumenty, tak se nesmí líkovat. Zůstanou prostě u toho soudu a nikdo kromě jakoby lidí, co jsou v tom soudu, tak je nesmí líkovat.
pieces of
Teda
information
takhle, nikdo je nesmí líkovat, ale oni je uvidí takhle.
during the ongoing discovery process. I think the overall message here is that Logan's team feels like Coffee's team overstepped their boundaries in that regard, and they really didn't like some of the things he was putting out to the public, hence the privacy complaint. So they want this document to remain under seal, and they anticipate that Coffee's team will want the opposite, and will say that the public has the right to this information, later adding that the things he included, some of which were likely redacted from the public, are not relevant in the situation, and that he only put the information out.
Vůbec nechápu, co se říká, kámo, já nejsem právník, já jsem stavař, vůbec nechápu, sorry.
Out there to harm and embarrass Logan Paul. So it appears to me that Logan does not want another taste of that public perception. People are saying this is actually the perfect example of the Streisand effect, where an unintended consequence of attempts to hide, remove, or censor information actually increase
Trying to suppress something draws attention to it. Jo, OK, pravda, chápu, už chápu.
the public awareness of said information. I mean, even this video itself kind of puts that on display, as I likely would not be making it in the first place if Logan did not file what I see as a bullshit privacy complaint against myself and a couple of others. And so
OK.
Coffee's team responds
To je zase jako starým, že tady taky kámo dělal hrozný ahaha hihi s těm předžalovkama, kdy to prostě nechal být, tak by se o to nemluvilo.
to this by basically saying that Logan is a hypocrite who is doing the same thing that he is complaining about, omitting information from the general public that makes him look like he was the mastermind behind the CryptoZoo situation, and that makes him look like he does indeed have bad intentions, adding that this information would contradict Logan's direct arguments, and that because he decided to take this to legal action, he has obviously opened himself up to discovery and all that it entails. And in the end, Logan's team did predict their move correctly. As Coffee's team says, because this other document was already filed, the public does have the right to see what's going on behind the curtain, and that they want everything from those documents that were redacted to now come out, and that it is now Logan's burden to prove why these things should remain sealed. Saying that this information they want to put on display was never designated by Logan or his legal team as confidential.
A mě praskne hlava, já vůbec nechápu, co se teď, o čem se mluví. Jediné, co potřebuji vědět, je, že Logan je prostě debil. To je asi celý, no.
And that they really didn't give any reasoning as to why they should remain locked away in the first place. It basically seems to me like they're saying, hey Logan, you cannot have your cake and eat it too, so now let us show the world your douchebaggery by unsealing these documents. Now I will say in Logan's next response, things do get fucking crazy. And I
OK,
feel like we kinda
crazy, drama, pojď.
what this entire lawsuit might actually be about. They say that Coffee's attempt to consolidate his case with the class action lawsuit is nothing more than a weak attempt to reset his stance, and that Coffeezilla himself spearheaded the inception of a government investigation into CryptoZoo, and that when this effort was met with the government not finding anything, he tried to expedite the trial. Like I told you guys last video, Coffee basically wanted to stop it right there and just have the jury decide this thing based on the information at hand, to which the judge said, no, we're not gonna do that. They also stay with the
So-
overall narrative here that Logan was an unassuming party who fell victim to the two main people who profited off of CryptoZoo, Eddie Ibanez and Jake Greenbaum, and that Logan spent over a year trying to fix their mistakes. They also
Aha, OK, takže Logan na tom možná nebude ve výsledku ten špatný.
reminds us here that despite not taking any profit from CryptoZoo, Logan did do this buyback program where he spent more than $1 million of his own money to refund buyers, something that they refer to as a success. And also noting that Coffee had even complimented Logan initially for this effort, and apparently even acknowledged that he was the victim in the situation. And here is where the wheels really start to fall off.
OK, dobře, máme tady jakože trošku anti-hero efekt, že nemyslíme si, že ten záporák je actually kámo záporák, ale prostě nepochopený básník.
For me, and I feel like all hell is about to break loose. Because Logan's team says that months before the OG 3-part series had come out, Coffeezilla took it upon himself to contact the US government, including the SEC, about CryptoZoo. They say that he prepared this PowerPoint presentation for them, calling it a whistleblower report, something he called an encapsulation of the entire CryptoZoo scheme, with the title of the presentation being Popular Influencer Logan Paul Defrauds Fans with Blockchain Play-to-Earn Game That Doesn't Work. And they say during this presentation that Coffeezilla left out key information that made Logan look innocent, like an interview he had conducted with a man named Luciano Cipoletti, who was a lead developer in CryptoZoo, saying that just 3 days before contacting the government, Coffeezilla said on this phone call that he might not have known was being recorded. There's this real sense that I get, like, and tell me if you kind of agree, this sense of incompetency. Part of it, I think they, referring to Logan and his manager, in their heads want to have good intentions, but they take on so many projects and so many different ideas, and Logan's constantly saying so many different things that they literally can't do it all. Then they also include Luciano's response. We had always believed that they really did have good intentions, but we always
Já se omlouvám, ale já moc jakoby k tomu nemám co říct zatím.
used the word incompetence. Even up until right now, like I truly believe that Jeff really meant to do well with the project. Same with Logan. You could hear it in Logan's voice. In that, I think it was the only AMA that he had, which is an Ask Me Anything session.
AMA, co to je?
Back in the first week of October 2021, you could hear in his voice that he really wants this project to be successful. All that stuff that a lot of people probably think was him trying to hype people up to do a cash grab, I never think that that's what it's about. I think that they just meant well but had the wrong team working for them at the beginning, and then I think they were just in a constant rat race of trying to band-aid everything up. So they're saying that not only
OK, ještě ať dořekne.
did Coffee omit this information from his report to the government, but that he also did not mention Eddie Ibanez, a Jake Greenbaum, at all. They say
OK, takže Coffee prostě nasnitchoval governmentu, že hej, tady je Logan Paul, udělal jim prezentaci v PowerPointu, ale v té PowerPointové prezentaci prostě schválně neříkal nějaký pointy, které by byly nějak pro Logana dobrý. Takže řekl, Logan je prostě špatný, ale pak ve videu vlastně, který dělal o Loganovi, řekl, hej no, jakoby je to špatný kluk, bro, ale tady jakoby ze svý kapsy dal $1 milion, kámo, aby pokryl aspoň nějaký ztráty svých fanoušků. Rok se to snažil opravit, tam ti jeho kámo společníci jsou vlastně bad guys a to vlastně neřekl v té PowerPoint prezentaci. Takže tak, zajímavé. Já myslím, že Coffeezilla je good guy, ale tohle je docela jako sneaky backstabbing docela.
that he knew these were the parties who profited in the millions of dollars from CryptoZoo, but that he chose to single out Logan despite the fact that he was well aware that Logan made no money from the venture, and that he did so because he knows his audience hates Logan Paul, and that it would obviously be a much bigger story if he painted Logan as the bad guy in the situation.
Okay.
Because obviously no one gives a shit about these two other people, it would not be newsworthy. And if this whole thing is true, it does really make me look at the entire situation differently. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still think that Logan is a tool, but it's like, why would you contact the government without bona fide evidence of fraud? And I also question why Coffee would not want these other bad actors in his report. Like, if the truth and ultimately holding people accountable is what he wants to achieve, wouldn't that be very important information for
To je zajímavé, no.
to have? Could it be that this was all in anticipation of some sort of future series against Logan? Because to me, it's now definitely within the realm of possibility. Logan's team speculates that he did this because he wanted the credit for being the person to help build this case, and for any criminal or civil penalties that Logan might have incurred from this investigation. And like I said, in the end, after this years-long investigation, the SEC really found no wrongdoing, and they apparently took no action against Logan Paul closing this book. That's when they're claiming that Coffee panicked and wanted this thing settled, to which the judge denied. He also addresses the text messages here, saying that they are not relevant because they occurred right after the initial series had come about, and that it predates the actual material they are suing him for defamation over, which is the two other videos and the tweet calling Logan a scammer, saying that the messages resemble someone who is angry about being defamed more than anything else, and that they really want to continue with the initial issue at hand. Did Coffeezilla act with malice in reporting this situation? And let me just tell you guys, I think this thing is about to get so
Ty koky, no, tak to je crazy video hodně. To se, já jsem vždycky na Coffeezillu koukal jako na toho, kámo, Robin Hooda z kámo Sherwoodského lesa, ale tohle je hodně divný. Tohle je jako hands down divné. Tohle je hodně divný. I ten title, kámo, vidíš, že prostě, že fakt lidi nemají rádi Logana Paula, že tady napsal Logan Paul is crashing out on Coffeezilla a není to naopak, že tady vlastně v tomhle videu se říká, že Coffeezilla je ten špatný, ale jakoby... No nic, dobrý, je to jakoby crazy, je to crazy video.